Hi guys, and welcome to Rathwulven Bushcraft. Thanks for tuning in. In this video I'm going to answer some more of your questions. If you haven't seen the first Q&A video, just make sure to click this link right up here. It will just get you to the first part of this short series in which I just want to reply to your questions and talk with you about different bushcraft related topics. And I say we just cut right to the chase and to the first question, okay? Bram's Bushcraft Basics asks, one of the topics I can't ever get enough of is wild edibles, especially determination. Can you elaborate on that topic? Well, Bram, the first thing that I can recommend to you is my playlist on foraging and plant identification. I'm just going to link that right up here. Make sure to check it out after this video because it does contain a lot of information that might be of help to you. But yeah, talking about plant identification and determination. It is a science or a skill in itself. It's rather complex. And just think about this. You know, you're going out in nature and there are myriad types of organisms. Trees, plants, herbs. You know, there's such a huge variety on Earth that you just constantly need to study that subject and also reread your information. So I would recommend to you to buy proper books, to read them thoroughly, to also talk to people that have more experience when it comes to foraging, maybe to take foraging classes or to go out with people that are well known for their expertise in their field and can give you some guided tours and so on. And then to recap all of that information, because learning itself is just repeating things, right? So let's compare this to learning a language, for example, vocabulary. It's a great example. You start with one word. So for example, if you're German like me, you would say hallo. But then you learn that in English it would be hello. Hallo, hello, hallo, hello. And you just repeat this for as long as you need up until it becomes part of your hardwired memory, so to speak. And then you learn the next sentence. For example, I am Ralf. Ich heiße Ralf. And so on. And then you repeat these things over and over again. And it's the same with plants. So you take the first plant and you study it. And then you repeat the information. It has a square stem. It has a square stem. It has a square stem. Just like your vocabulary, right? Hallo, hello. Hallo, hello. It's just a matter of repetition. I hope it makes sense to you. Like, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say with that. Because if you want to learn more about plants, really just get going and just try to create a regular flow, right? If you want to become better at plant determination, just repeat this knowledge over and over again, go out over and over again, use your senses, look at plants, touch those plants, try to figure out, whether you can feel if they're hairy or if they just have smooth stems, or whether the stem is square, how the leaf shape looks like, whether the leaf is rather dense or whether it's waxy, all these kind of things. Just play around with that without directly eating or consuming these type of plants or processing them into some sort of a product like an ointment or so, and just experience plants, and gather practical experience with the theoretical knowledge you're constantly repeating, because you will see that after a while you will become better in that field. I mean, look at me. In my case, I'm foraging since, I don't know, maybe 15, 18 years or so. Like, I started somewhere in my early teenage years when my grandma just took me out into the forest and explained a couple of things. And then I forgot those things again while I was doing my high school and my university studies and so on. And then I had to relearn all the knowledge I already had. So also for me, it was constant repetition, right? It's not something that you just do like this, you don't go out and just look at a plant and then you understand everything. Or you just don't look online on some sort of a blog, take out one piece of information and all of a sudden you're a forager. It's a rather complex thing, so make sure that you just keep yourself busy with that, because the more time you invest in a certain field of studies, the more you will learn about it. And then also try to look at it from a positive perspective. Every plant you can identify is basically one level up, right? You don't need to learn everything about any plant. There are experts of botany out there, and botanists are way beyond my level. They understand so much more about the taxonomy and all these kind of things that come with plant identification. But do you really need this? Not really. You just need to obtain the practical knowledge when it comes to bushcraft. And yeah, you need to be thorough, of course, but volume-wise, you know, it's less than someone who's, for example, working as a gardener needs to know everything about this flower and that flower and so on, right? And then maybe another thought also on the determination. What also helps is learning about toxic doppelgangers, because if you do that, you can also recognize those. And a lot of people make the mistake that they just learn something about an edible herb, but they don't really deal with the potential doppelgangers and the potential hazards that come with that. So just make sure to also dedicate half a year of studying to toxic plants. Because if you do that and you're capable of recognizing them, then you can eliminate them, then you won't use them, and then you also increase the likelihood to not get intoxicated, or the likelihood to stay safe, I mean, if you go out foraging. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, it was a rather generic question, but I hope that helps. If you are still looking for more specific information, make sure to check out that playlist that I linked. And otherwise, just post a comment below. Ask me something else. You know, if I didn't really address this according to your needs, I will gladly answer to your comment, okay? Flood is asking, how do you waterproof the kuxa after drying? Thanks. Well, Flood is referring to this kuxa carving video right here. Make sure to check it out if you haven't before. Just to be straightforward, in this video I did not waterproof the kuxa in any way. I just carved it in field so I could have a drink, and that's that. But when it comes to waterproofing or impregnating the wood that I'm using when I'm doing some sort of woodwork, I just stick to linseed oil. Because it's biological, it barely has any taste once you treat the wood with that, and you don't have any kind of chemicals in there like a coating or a, what's the English word for it again? A varnish, for example. So there are people that use such products and make beautifully crafted artworks from wood, but when it comes to simple things, and give me a moment, like for example, spoon like this, that's just beech wood treated with a bit of linseed oil, nothing else. It doesn't look very spectacular, but it does the trick. Same accounts for that spork right here. Then I got a tiny little mini spoon or kuxa with a bit of carving. It's also treated with linseed oil. This here, for example, all treated with linseed oil. And that's how I make my kitchen tools, see? So, making spoons, spatulas, all these kind of things. And you can do that too, you know, don't overthink that. Just make sure you use sandpaper to have a nice smooth surface, and then just give it 2 or 3 coatings of the linseed oil, and after using your tools, you know, or your kuxa, make sure to reapply those oils once in a while. So maybe, like if you're using them frequently, maybe every 1 to 2 months, like you will get a hold of that, because as you can see right here, they will get dry at a point. Now it's not taking the focus, but I hope you can see this somewhat. And then you're good to go. That's it. Nothing spectacular. Argue Trapper asks, have you ever tried Shou Sugi Ban? Well, that's the same as yakizugi, right? This Japanese technique to burn wood in order to make it more durable and to use it for building houses and such. And yeah, technically I did, because in essence it's the same as pyrolysis. So basically charring wood. If you take a look at that spoon again, I just burnt out the wood right here, and you technically have this Shou Sugi Ban char right here, right? Because it's always the same. You just burn out the wood, and then you get this coating of ash or like the charred outer layer, which preserves the wood. I did see people use this for kuxas also, to just you know, char them completely so that they turn black all around. And yeah, of course you can use it. It's a rather simple technique. I never used it for building a house though, so if you're really referring to the actual Japanese technique of making these wooden planks that they put on the outer side of houses, that I didn't do. But when it comes to smaller woodworking projects like these, yes. Mike asks, is sleeping in a hammock better against ticks than sleeping in a debris hut? Well, Mike, the simple answer is yes. Let me elaborate on that. If you're building shelters from natural materials, chances are that you will also carry ticks into your shelter, right? And especially if you're using ferns. In my experience, if you build like an A-frame construction or a lean-to, and you're using ferns to build an insulating layer or to use them as shingles or so, you will definitely end up with ticks the next morning. That's my experience. The same accounts for debris huts on which you put some dead leaves, for example, because ticks will be everywhere in the forestry area. You know, you can't really do anything about this. It's not that you can just say like, hey, ticks, come on, go away, and then all of a sudden they disappear. That's not how it happens. So a hammock, to a certain degree, does help against that, because you just live above the ground, right? You're basically having a bit of distance between all the creepy crawlies, so may it be spiders, millipedes, bugs, worms, you know, all these kind of things that are right in or on top of the soil, right? And it's not a guarantee, I have to say that too. What happened one time, it's a really funny story, because I was also really surprised about that. I was just sitting at a campfire with a friend of mine, Ronald, and we were just having a chat, sitting there for hours, just watching the fire, and then I went to sleep in my hammock, actually. And the next morning I woke up, and while I was waking up, and I was looking down right here in the chest area of my sleeping bag, I saw a tick crawl on the actual sleeping bag. So I must have taken that from the evening before into the hammock, and basically it stayed with me in the hammock for the entire night, and it didn't manage to find an entry point, so I think that just crawled around the sleeping bag and underneath the sleeping bag, and I don't know where, but it just didn't manage to get into the, how do you call this, like the opening of your sleeping bag where your head looks out, right? So I basically just took the tick, just you know, gave it a fling and just shot it out, and that was that. So actually you can take them inside a hammock too, but don't panic. As I said before, ticks are just part of the business, right? Do your proper checkups, and if it really helps you in terms of your psychology, just start off with a hammock, because don't take it personally, but from all your questions regarding ticks, I get the feeling that you're overthinking the topic, and then it's perfectly fine if you just take a hammock, you go out, you know, you create yourself a little more security also for your own mind, and then you can gradually expand your comfort zone. That's just how it goes. So yeah, good luck with that, and thanks for your question. Brock wrote, now you mentioned that you should go to the doctors afterwards, but considering the world's current state, should I risk that? Now my cousin, after several years of fighting Lyme disease, lost her battle last year. I do a lot of bushcraft practice near our cottage. I just want to hear your opinion on that. Well, Brock, first of all, my sincere condolences. I can only relate too well to what you're writing. I also lost loved ones due to Lyme disease. It is a horrible thing, because it can result in death. It can also result in damaging your health for a lifetime. If you've seen my other tick videos, which I'm going to link again up here, I'm telling you a bit about a friend of mine who spends most of her time in a wheelchair, is in excruciating pain, deals with paralysis, and yeah, I just want to express my condolences and also my understanding for what you're writing, because it is a serious issue, and I'm really sorry for your loss. But that said, to your question, yes, you should go to the doctor, regardless of the situation right now. Because if I understand your question correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically referring to corona and the risks that might come with sitting in a waiting room, right, and maybe being exposed to the virus. I wouldn't worry too much about that, simply because if you got a regular immune system, and if you are at a relatively young age, like I am too, then you're not part of any corona risk group. You know, you're not an elderly person. I hope you're not someone who does face complications with asthma or other kind of lung diseases, or has any kind of issues with breathing and things that might eventually lead to pneumonia if you would get an infection with corona. So if you are just a person with a regular immune system that works well, then just go to the doctor if you had a tick, you know, do your checkups. Because, trust me, you know, you will be better off if you just, you know, even if you contract corona, then you will be sick for a couple of days if you're unlucky, and then it's going to be fine. But if you get some issue with Lyme disease or with Borrelia, and you don't take measures against that, and you don't follow a treatment, you know what can happen. You've seen it with your loved ones, right? I've seen it with people in my surroundings, and it's just not worth the risk. Lyme disease is a horrible thing. I don't know how often I said that right now. It's just a really bad and horrible thing. And the only thing I can advise is go to your general practitioner, get medical advice, and also make sure that if you go there for a checkup, tell your doctor that you are in the outdoors frequently, and tell them that you are exposed to ticks and hence to Borrelia, and that you therefore have an increased risk of contracting Lyme disease. It's really important to mention this because in my experience, just to add this as a side note, doctors have the tendency to check you for doing checkup on regular diseases or illnesses. So if you got a fever, they will go for doing a flu check, you know, checking your tonsils, all these kind of things. But to very few doctors, it does actually occur that they might need to check you for Borrelia. And that happened to me too. That's how I got my fair share of borreliosis, because my doctor simply didn't think about it, and neither did I. And just because I was lucky, they did a blood test, figured it out afterwards, and I could barely manage to get out of that situation by using a lot of antibiotics. So make sure you raise this issue. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. So that's my opinion on that. Other than that, please stay safe, please stay healthy, okay? And we have a couple of more questions of Shevan613. Question number 1, what is your favorite way of making fire, and what material is your favorite? Well, second question, where are you from? My guess is Germany. Third question, what is a nice way of making fire that almost nobody does or knows about? And 4, do you think that elm wood is good for a bow drill set? It does work for me sometimes. In most cases the wood will make a horrible loud sound. Okay, so let's go through the questions bit by bit. First of all, the question about me being German. Yes, I am. Originally I'm from Germany, currently residing in the Netherlands, and all too often just traveling around and just enjoying different parts of the world, right? What is my favorite way of making fire? Truth being told, the easiest way. So, yeah, like it's fun to do bow drill practice, and it's fun to work with flint and steel and all these kind of things. But when it comes to making fires as a necessity, you know, when it comes to cooking or being able to warm your body up, then it's the easiest way. So sometimes the best way to start a fire is using matches or using a lighter, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to bushcraft and to the primitive techniques, I have to say that I do like working with the bow drill, because I'm not particularly good at it, to be honest. That's why so far I didn't shoot any kind of tutorial video or so, because in my experience it takes a lot of practice, and I'm also working with a lot of different types of woods. Which brings me to the fourth question. Elm wood and the bow drill set. I haven't tried that before, to be honest. I tried hazel on hazel, which worked one time, and then the other time it didn't. Willow is also great for hearthboard, but it needs to have the right punky consistency, you know, like it needs to be, how do you call it? It needs to be fluffy and dry enough, but not rotten. And yeah, it's a topic for itself, you know. It's just something that you can discuss for hours, and a lot of people have different ideas on that. Some recommend using thin spindles like that, other people say that it needs to be like 1 thumb thickness, and I don't know, like we can go on endlessly about that. So yeah, bow drill is fun, absolutely. And when it comes to elm wood, I have to give that a try. I can't answer that question yet, because I don't have any practical experience with elm wood when it comes to the bow drill set. About the horrible sounds though, yeah, I can relate to this, and usually I have that issue with the loud noises when the the wood is still too moist. And you will figure this out quickly, like especially with willow. I once harvested a piece of willow from a broken branch, and I thought that the branch was already hanging there for a year or so, but it just had like a tiny connection to the tree itself, which seems to have pumped in a bit of moisture there, or a little bit of sap, right? And when I started drilling, it just went like whoosh, squeak, 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 and I almost blew my eardrums. So yeah, that happens. And yeah, what was the last question? A nice way of making a fire that almost nobody knows about, right? Let me think about that for a moment. I would say using batteries and those tinfoil-like papers of chewing gums. Like if you have a Wrigley's pack or so, like the long chewing gums that are wrapped in this aluminum foil type of packaging, you could take these and take like a 9-volt block battery, and then just put one end of the paper on the negative pole and the other one on the positive, right? And due to the heat that you basically, or like the electricity you pump through that paper, the paper heats up and at some point combusts. So give that a try. It's a really awesome technique if you might find yourself, in a situation in which you don't have any fire starter with you, but you might have like a cell phone battery, or you might have your car battery, and or something like that. You can use this to your advantage in a survival situation. I think Les Trout also featured that one time in one of his Survivor Man episodes, and then he did do this with an airplane battery, if I remember correctly, and a piece of the hull of the actual plane crash wreck. So just look for Survivor Man plane crash or so on Google, and you will find this episode. It's really awesome to watch. Find it an interesting way to start a fire. B here now asks, 9/11 inside job, you believe the media? Yeah, I thought I'd just take this in because I don't get political on my channel, so I will not take any statement to 9/11. Also because no matter what, it's a horrible situation. Whatever happened there, people died. So it ain't no funny topic, and I know that a lot of US American friends of mine are watching too. And the trauma is really severe, so it's not particularly a nice question to ask. But about believing the media, I would like to comment on this. I have a bachelor degree in media sciences. So I dealt with media for about 4 years in on my academic path when studying that field. And trust me, you can believe many established media channels, because proper investigative journalists will do just that. They will conduct investigative journalism rather than publishing one sentence Facebook posts or conspiracy story pictures or whatever on social media. So yeah, if we're talking about properly established media sources like the BBC, CNN, in Germany maybe Zeit, it's one of the biggest newspapers there, like all those very well established investigative news channels, of course you can trust them because that's their job. And they also need to criticize themselves. Those are conglomerates of hundreds of people that engage in debates and all these kind of things. You should be critical about any type of media or news source that doesn't feature sources, that is very shallow, has always some sort of a twist, like 9/11 is an inside job. That's a twist to the story too, just like saying 9/11 is a thing caused by Muslims, which is also a generalization. All these kind of very simple truths that people try to sell you, those you should be critical about. That's the only thing I can say to that. So yeah, hope that answers the question somehow. And then finally we have Tektakin or Tektakin, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but you asked me, what is my dream job and can I play any instruments? To start off with the first question, a dream job, what does that mean? It's something I'm asking myself for quite some time now, because I worked in different fields. I did customer support jobs in the past. I worked in dispute resolution and mediation because I'm speaking 3 languages, which is it's a field that is coming with a lot of stress. If you got 2 trading partners that are arguing and are not capable of communicating with each other because due to a language barrier, there's a lot of stress, a lot of friction, a lot of emotion involved. So you can look at it from 2 sides. You can look at it from the perspective of contributing something to the greater good by bringing people together, or you can look at it in a negative way by thinking of those people being drama queens, and just being so negative. So also there, it comes with 2 sides to the medallion. I did work as a representative of a motorcycle company, which was awesome because I love riding. I did also now do work as a teacher at a nature school, which is a very fulfilling thing. And I think now we get to your actual question and what is the dream job. I think a dream job needs to be fulfilling. By the end of the day, you need to get the feeling that you get something out of your work. You need to have a feeling of reward, so to speak, of bliss. And if I'm teaching children how to use the birch polypore, for example, or how to build a fire, not even bushcraft-like, but just how to build a fire so that with your match you can actually ignite that, and to see their reactions to that, to see their confidence if they realize, hey, I can do this myself, this is something that really gives me some satisfaction in the sense that I know that I'm doing something useful. What else? Like I used to work as a translator also. I had my own translation company. That was also very fulfilling, to be honest. I just did quit that at a point because I just felt like something else. So I guess my answer to this entire question would be that you should just do whatever makes you happy. Because by the end of the day, a job only serves one purpose. And that's income. You need to be able to make a living, and other than that, it should be something that fulfills you with joy. If you can live well, if you can pay your rent, buy you some food, make sure that you got a roof on top of or over your head, and that you got enough to eat, enough to drink, that you got electricity, and that you don't have to worry about the essentials, everything's fine. Other than that, jobs are just jobs again, And might very well be that in a couple of years I would just decide to do something else. Because that's just how we are, we change throughout time. Maybe you can also relate to this, as a kid, maybe you wanted to be an astronaut or a firefighter. Like I always wanted to be a firefighter, so when I was 14 I joined the volunteers at our youth fire brigade, and just did that for a while. Just to learn something about that up until I got annoyed by it and just dropped out. And so it goes. So what is a dream job? A dream job is something that fulfills you, and that can be anything. It's not bound to income, in my opinion. I don't want to get rich, I just want to be happy in life. That's the only thing I can say to that. But yeah, that also said, can I play instruments? Yes, quite some. I did start off with piano lessons at the age of 5 or 6, I can't remember. But my grandpa was giving me lessons, and I got so fed up with playing piano after a year that I told myself that I would never ever touch an instrument again. And as it goes, then I turned 13, and a friend of mine at school wanted to start a Pink Floyd tribute band, and at that point I only knew Another Brick in the Wall and didn't even know what Pink Floyd did other than that. But I liked the song, so I said, okay, I'm gonna join your band. So he managed to get some guy in that played a bit of drums. That friend of mine on the guitar was playing guitar for 2.5 weeks or so he was far off any kind of David Gilmour level. And I just decided to become a bass player. So I asked my grandpa, like, hey, can you get me a bass? To which his reply was just like, hey, you always were so against music and so, and now all of a sudden you want to start? Awesome, let's get going. And then I started learning bass. throughout time, I also bought myself a couple of guitars. Started off with an acoustic guitar, classical guitar with nylon strings, then a western guitar, then an electric guitar. I can play a bit of drums, so when it comes to blues and they're very basic rock type of patterns, I can do that. Not a particularly good drummer though, to be honest. What else? I do have a couple of native instruments here. I played duduk for a while, the Armenian duduk, a really awesome instrument. I got an Irish tin whistle here, also awesome. I do have a sanzula, which is a special type of kalimba. In case you haven't seen these before, I'm just going to show you a picture right here. Yeah, what else? I even got a nose flute here, I just realized. So, don't know if you can consider this a proper instrument, but like... it's also something that generates noise, so yeah. I'll just try to pick up one thing or another once in a while and just create something out of that. That's just it. Well, yeah. I think I'll also use this to wrap up the video from here, okay, if you guys don't mind. Thanks a lot for your questions, to all of you. I very much appreciate the involvement. And yeah, I just hope, you know, that you had something with the information that I gave you, you know, that you could get to know me a little better. And other than that, I would really love to see you around the channel. Also because I got a little announcement before I forget that. I will be able to shoot outdoors soon. Because I will travel to Germany. I will meet Yannick from Fox Scout Survival. He's also linked in my suggested channels. Make sure to check out his channel. We're going on a trip. We're going to do some bushcraft and survival related stuff, and I'm going to take the camera with me. So there will be more footage in the outdoors. I'm really happy to announce that here. And yeah, other than that, just make sure to stick around if you're curious about what's going to happen. And other than that, have a great day. I hope I'll see you in the next video, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.